I didn't fit in America.
With cocaine, there's just always too many guns and too many bad attitudes.
I quit the limiting stories. Really try to overcome that fear.
And right there, for any of your listeners, a lot of what I was to do in the rest of my life was formulated by the fact I just went and did it, goddammit.
Welcome to episode 4 of Misfits and Rejects, where we hear the incredible story of Dale Dagger, shipwrecking in Nicaragua and never leaving. You can click in the bio to hear the full episode. You can subscribe on iTunes or any other Android podcast player. The show notes are broken into 5-minute chunks. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Misfits and Rejects, a podcast about expatriates and the artistic way they've styled their lives around the world. I'm your host, Chapin Kruder. Enjoy.
I didn't fit in America.
Find yourself shipwrecked in a far-off place, and Dale, welcome to the show.
Try not to plan too much at all, just be spontaneous.
I quit the limiting stories. Really try to overcome that fear.
I'm going to sail again. I got one more sailing.
Love her, but leave her wild.
But it didn't work for me. The American dream wasn't going to work for me because I didn't fit the American dream. I had respect when I was a young, strong man. Now I'm an old guy, and I respect myself. You know what, Chapin? I'm a secret fan. And I prefer to just be secret. And if you can figure out who Dale Dagger is, then figure it out. And if you can't, then don't.
Hello and welcome to another podcast of Misfits and Rejects. I'm sitting here with the godfather of surfing, Dale Dagger, charted the coasts of many frontiers down in Central America, Nicaragua. He found himself shipwrecked at one point and never left. So I feel like it's a very appropriate and exciting moment to capture his story and inspire you to maybe take that leap of faith and find yourself shipwrecked in a far-off place and make a life for yourself. Very unique because when Dale landed here, he didn't have anything, and he's built a small and very respectable empire for himself. Maybe even a big empire, depending on who you're comparing it with. But I'd like to introduce him and welcome to the show. Dale, welcome to the show. Well, so Dale, let's talk a little bit about your past and where you grew up. Where'd you grow up, Dale?
I grew up in San Diego, California. I was born on Windermere Street at Windansea. And my parents, when they had a son, my father thought that it was going to be too expensive to live in La Jolla, so he moved to Lemon Grove. I never forgave them for that. If I would have grown up on Windermere Street, I'd probably be some dickhead from La Jolla.
All right. What was your childhood like? I mean, did you travel much? I mean, you've obviously had a legendary lifestyle in the way you traveled the world and sailed around the Pacific. Was that a part of your childhood? Did you grow up as a sailor? Was your father a sailor? Or?
My father camped, and my parents camped. And then we got a trailer, and we camped at La Costa. The first place I ever saw surfing was a place called Tamarack Street in Oceanside, California. And that's where I got kind of the taste of it. My father rented me a Sabbath in Half Moon Bay, and I got my taste of sailing there. Why did I start surfing? I started surfing because of the Beach Boys. I was a trendy guy, wanted to be hip, wanted to be like everybody else in my junior high school. So I started surfing. I told everybody I was a surfer years before I actually really was a surfer.
Interesting. So you come from the era of the Beach Boys.
I come from the era that's now, where everybody wants to be a surfer, and they really aren't a surfer. I wanted to be a surfer, and I really wasn't a surfer. And then I became a surfer, and then I really became a surfer, where surfing became my life. And because surfing became my life, I started looking ways to find new surf, and I dreamed about sailboats. My ideal was to bring a catamaran down behind a van to come to Central America, because I knew Central America had waves.
How'd you know that?
Oh, Surfer Magazine. God, when I grew up, everybody had a Volkswagen bus. Everybody was going to Central America. It was in Surfer Magazine. We didn't have Surfer's Journals then, but if we did, it had been in. I'm just a product of media. I'm not anybody special. I just read about it and did it. But what happened to me was I just went a little bit further than just coming down here and having a look-see. I went back to buy a catamaran to drag down behind my Volkswagen bus, and I bought too big a boat. I bought a 24-foot Piver Nugget. Arthur Piver is the founder of trimarans, multi-hull sailing. He's a pioneer in his own way, like Blake and surfer guys like that. I ended up surfing the Channel Islands in the 70s. And the Channel Islands in the 70s were like Central America in the 80s and the 90s. There was nobody there. There were abalone divers. I don't know if you remember abalones. You probably buy them in a can now, but there used to be a fleet of people that went out there and dove. And they were very tight-knit, but I fit in because I went out by myself and hung out, and they'd leave, I'd be in the water, they'd come back 3 days later, I'd still be in the water, same little boat, and end up bringing me groceries.
Interesting. So I'm assuming, went through high school.
Yeah, I went through high school. I tried a little bit of college to stay out of the draft. College wasn't working for me, so I studied for my draft physical and failed it spectacularly.
Would you drink a ball of soy sauce or something like that?
No, we ate some what we thought were mushrooms in high school, and actually it was belladonna. And I was on a porch by myself in La Mesa, and I thought I was with friends in Ocean Beach.
Wow.
So I had a pretty good story. They believed it. They let me out of it. They wanted to give me crazy money, and I just jumped out and clicked my heels and left as quick as I could. You can't leave right away. It takes balls to leave.
Yeah. So what was your first big trip?
I went to San Tomas Island off Ensenada. I think it was a 60-mile sail away, and rode some pretty big waves all by myself, and you kind of got, wow, this is pretty cool.
So you soloed that sail down to Ensenada?
Yeah, I sailed alone a lot, not because I'm a loner, but it's really hard to get two people on the same wavelength. I wanted to go, and other people had other reasons not to go, so I went alone.
How did you finance this first trip?
I think, the first trip probably cost $17. My first real trip, I left in a Norman Cross's personal boat, a Puff, 26-foot Norman Cross trimaran. I left for $75 and got all the way to Vallarta, and I traded the boat for a motorhome and some money. And with the motorhome, we explored Mexico, and I traded the motorhome for another catamaran. Basically, I financed the whole thing through magic. I mean, no money, but just magic.
Yeah, just being open to trading and having new experiences and using whatever materials you had to barter and moving forward. And that $75 lasted you how long?
Oh, God, I don't know. We were probably broke by the time we got to Cabo.
Okay, that's interesting. So when that finally finished and you did run out of money, did you come back to the States and try to make a living there, or were you able to maintain a life for how many years in Mexico and Central America?
I think I lasted on that trip probably 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
And then when I finally came back to America, it was deep in the 70s. It's hard for me. I've done so many trips and I get them mixed up. But I came back and I was a millwright, and I worked for a year, and I had another sailboat, and I went back down for 7 years. And then I came back and I went to Maui, and I became a sales rep for O'Neill and windsurfed. And windsurfing and sailing are just two of the coolest things you can do, because you can surf and you can sail at the same time. And while I was doing that, they were paying my way to San Francisco 4 times a year. So I bought another cheap catamaran and put it together. It took me about 4 or 5 years. I think about 1993, I plugged my fax machine into my answering machine and my fax machine, flew to San Francisco, sailed to Santa Cruz, invited Jack O'Neill down to the boat, shook his hand. What a wonderful man he is. The family's great. And Jack told me, "Well, boy, you're loaded up, you're ready to go good on you, proud of you. And I sailed off and shoot. That was the last time I was in the United States. I came back for a weekend. Somebody flew me back for a weekend, but that was in the 90s.
Now, do you have no desire to ever go back to the States? I mean, you've always been doing this now, what, like 40 years, 30 years on the road?
I just bought a car. I bought another sailboat, and my sailboat's 4 hours from the Arizona border, and I bought an Astro van, and I'm going to go back to the States just because it's the biggest swap meet in the world. Everything's so cheap there. And I want to go back, and I don't have any reason not to go back, except that, well, okay, in Nicaragua, we don't have a drinking and driving law. And actually, we have an open container law that if they catch you without one, they make you pull over and buy one. So I'm afraid of America because, it's pretty legalistic and I might screw up. But no, I'm going to go back and just look-see. And my family, I love my family. It's so much cheaper to bring them here to see me than it is for me to go see them.
When was the last time you saw them?
Oh, 2 years ago.
2 years. They came down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice.
So what I'm going to do this time is I've got another sailboat and no plans. It's in the Sea of Cortez. I've been saving the Sea of Cortez till I'm too old to surf, and I'm still not too old to surf, but it's a good time to see the Sea of Cortez. It is close to stuff, and one thing about a sailboat is you need stuff. So I have access to stuff, and I put my boat together, and I'm ready to do, I don't know. I mean, I've lived here in Gigante for 15 years, and I'm ready to sail a boat down the hill again because fucking sailing's cool, and moving a boat through the water is a magic experience.
Absolutely. So let's talk then more about your first sailing trip down to Nicaragua and what that experience was like, because I've heard you talk a little bit about the revolution was hot and heavy the first time you passed through here. Can you get into more detail on like that experience? Because you obviously
the dates are fuzzy. Maybe 78. Somoza was still in power. He was in Managua. The Sandinistas had the control of the coast. They had the control of the coast because all the ships had hammer and sickle flags on them. And we pulled into Corinto. It blows really hard here. We blew the clew out of the jib, and without a jib, you can't make a sloop go to weather, and you have to stay on the coast off the coast of Nicaragua. So we turned around, ran back into Corinto, and I started sewing at dawn. Everybody was in khaki. Everybody was in serious. And there was a hospital ship there, big white hospital ship, and I glassed it, with binoculars. And when I got to the funnel, it's the biggest hammer and sickle I ever saw. And what do they use to scare us now? ISIS? Yeah. Well, they used to use the hammer and sickle to scare us then.
Communist flag.
And it scared the fuck out of me. So I sewed it up and we got out of there. It probably would have been pretty cool to hang out, but I sailed as long as I could until I started falling asleep. And I could tell I was in just a wave-rich zone because it's blowing offshore, and there's just, everywhere I look, there's just triangles, and the spray's blowing off of both directions, and you can see them spit. And there's a little bay, and I sail into this little bay and anchor. And in the morning, I get a good enough line of position that I know kind of where I'm at, and I'm actually 100 yards away from where we're sitting right now in Gigante. And we pulled the hook and went to Costa Rica because Costa Rica was Pachora Grande by yourself, everywhere by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's kind of my whole story about surfing since maybe 2004, surfing by yourself. I tell people I turned my hair gray because I couldn't decide whether I wanted the first wave or the second wave.
So you'd say 2004 was kind of a tipping point for Central American surfers where
yeah. And then there were 6 or 7 guys in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 or 7 guys in the water is different than surfing by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still great. I mean, people are still really enjoying themselves. I'm not poo-pooing the place. What I'm saying is I was really lucky I got to surf it alone. Now I surf it. I've developed a different way of surfing now. I ride a small little board called a Papio board that's Hawaiian design. And I basically just tube ride, and I get maybe 10 or 15 yard long tube rides in this little wave in my front yard. And yeah, it's not as good for me now surfing wise because there's so many people in the water. But for my neighbors, for the people that I call myself 35% Nicaraguan. I've lived here for 20 years. For my neighbors, they have motorcycles now. They have houses. They have jobs. They have security. They have a life. And yeah, I don't have every set wave I want, but it's just so much better now for them. And Nicaragua, honestly, is better now than when I got here. And
in what sense?
Well, geez, we're going to go to open mic night tonight. There's like a ton of girls. There's stuff. There's things to do. Mm-hmm. When I got here, it was dark at night, and you just went home and, we called it single-handed. It was like making the scene with a magazine.
So yeah, you passed by in the 70s, and you did get a little taste, but it was politically maybe a little unstable, and explored Costa Rica. And then after that trip, you went back. You sold your cat, or did you sail it home, or what happened after that?
I put on the beach in this place called La Costa de Guanacaxle, and I went back, and the only thing left was a bow piece that Pat Kern had built out of rosewood in Golfito. And it just rotted away. I'd left it too long. I left it for 10 years. I went back to Maui and spent 10 years windsurfing there. But I came down on another catamaran, the same design, but much, much better built, much better. It was put together better.
So you came down in the 90s on a different catamaran, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
yeah.
And as the story goes, you were running maybe a charter. Why don't you tell us how you actually shipwrecked here?
Well, I had a charter. A guy got cut his foot on a rock really badly. And I thought he was going to bleed out on me. And I did the estimated time of arrival, and I thought he'd die before I got him back to San Juan del Sur. And there was an army base on the beach close by. They were protecting turtles. So I drove the boat up on the beach thinking that I'd just break the rudders off and be able to fix them, and we'd save his life. Well, we hit a sandbar and took a wave over the stern, and I lost everything.
Did you save his life?
Everything. Sorry?
Did you save his life?
Oh, he was walking in 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I lost everything. And I tell people that I didn't choose Nicaragua. Nicaragua chose me. There was nobody here then. I was patching dings for Nicaraguans. I ended up making fuel tanks out of fiberglass. I'm really good with my hands. And the only job available was real estate. But I learned how to do HTML. I learned how to do websites, and I got a really good Nicaraguan partner. And I brought friends of mine from Hawaii here to buy property. They buy $55,000 lots on the beach at Hacienda Iguana, it's called Colorado's now. We named it Herenas, but somehow the name didn't stick. But it's Hacienda Iguana now, and my friends bought for $55,000 and sold for $255,000, $350,000. Anyway, I have some really, really good friends in Hawaii that like me a lot.
Well, this is the meat of the story that I love so much. I'd like to get into more detail about the timeline of things, because knowing you a long time, we shared a lot of good experiences, and I've heard a little bit of your story, and I think the audience could really benefit from this portion, because this is, I think, where we really get an understanding about the type of person it takes to come to a place like this and build and accomplish what you have accomplished. So you shipwreck. There's nobody here. You're obviously not selling property right away. Let's talk a little bit about you being in San Juan, which at that time you were one of how many gringos, if any?
There were 3 gringos. One was gay, one was 75, and one was me.
Okay. And at one point you told me that you in 1 year only were able to scrape together $1,000.
$1,100. I made $1,100 in commissions. I starved.
And you were just you didn't have a boat at this time. So
I didn't have a boat.
You're fixing dings for locals on their boats, correct?
And you can find ways to make money. You can fix stuff. You can do things. I can't remember exactly how I did it, but God, I know I did it because I'm here telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't eat every day. We had eating days and not eating days. Another guy named John West, who had the first internet service provider company in Nicaragua, and he was a godsend. He would bring me up once a month to his house, and I just emptied his refrigerator. I'd eat every olive, everything. It's kind of funny now, but it wasn't very funny then.
So then it took, would you say, 1 year, 2 years,
4
5
years.
years? So
There are
4 years to get on your feet.
4 years. 4 years were black, and then the light shone, and it's been really good.
Yeah. So you shipwreck. 4 years goes by, you scraping. You chose not to call family for help and maybe go home and start a new job and regain some of that capital and sail away again. You chose to stick it out here, grind it out, make a living for yourself in some way, shape, or form. You said you met John Wiss and your partner at one point, who you both threw in some capital and started buying properties. Is that how it worked?
No, my partner worked for the government. He made $200 a month. All the money came from people that I knew that came down, and we sold them property. And instead of taking a commission, we'd keep a few bucks just to keep our heads above water and a piece of the property.
I see.
And then the piece of property we sold again. And we're talking about, God, the most beautiful oceanfront, incredible piece of property you can imagine. And you have 3 months on us, which is like 5 acres, and you sell it for $80,000. It's probably worth $580,000 now. But that's how we started. And my Nicaraguan partner was really good at first because he spoke Spanish and got me started with the law and everything like that. But then he became, well, Dale's going to do all the work and I get half the money. I'm golden, which is kind of how corporate America works, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm just a wage slave like everybody else, but I swim every day.
When did you start building your pangas? Those custom made wooden pangas that you're kind of known for, especially here in Nicaragua.
I don't know. A guy designed them for me, and God, I'm just so embarrassed I can't name his name right now. But it's Chesapeake Lightcraft. His name's John, and he designed the first one for me. And you get a piece of paper with drawings on it. You have to turn it into a work of art. And I guess that was late in the 90s. I built one before I moved here to Gigante, so maybe 97.
And you're able to take those small crafts up and down the coast, exploring and really getting to know the waves of the coast here?
Well, named them all. And of course, none of the names stuck, but that doesn't matter.
A few of them did. I believe you named Plonga Drops and Manzanita.
I guess Plonga Drops stuck. Yeah. But not much else did. But it doesn't matter. That part of it isn't what I did it for, and isn't what is valuable now. What's valuable now is that, God, I look around and I see so many people, so many local Nicaraguans who have benefited from what I did. And from starting the surf tour thing, there's 400 people in this town that have jobs now that didn't have jobs before. I mean, there's something there. That's what I'm proud of. I'm proud of I kind of ruined the surf for everybody, but not really, because there's now 1,000 guys enjoying waves that there were just 2 or 3 of us enjoying. And now there's Nicaraguans that have, decent lives and health care, and they send their kids to school, and they're doing good things with it. And that's what I'm the most proud of.
Yeah, it's incredible. I got here, in 2005, and if you were to Google surfing anywhere in Central America, you managed to come up first in the Google search. You were everywhere. And I remember when we first got to Gigante, you had what was called a Hidden Bay tour, because you were actually stationed down in San Juan, and you built a little place up here that you would send people to. And I remember getting to meet you for the first time, and although I don't think you really trusted me because you'd probably seen a million guys like me come through here, you always seemed to be available in times of need. You know, you always kind of kept to yourself, but if our boat was having problems, we were always capable of coming to you for any kind of question. You gave us an honest answer that was extremely helpful. And I mean, couldn't have been happier to engage with you in that sort of scenario, you know, with your wealth of knowledge in boats and fiberglass and engines. I mean, you saved us so many times in the early years. And then you moved up to Gigante, actually. I mean, you kind of left your station in San Juan where you'd spent, I guess, at this point, like 10 years and kind of transferred everything up here. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, I built a house.
Finally, so you built your first house.
There wasn't really here. John actually bought a house that I could have bought, but I had reservations because I thought that somebody would buy the house next door and build a wall and fuck it all up. And as you and I both know, that's exactly what happened. But I built a house, and then I tried to do it from both places, and it didn't. You know, you can't do a good job working for two places, and that's how John and you guys got started, because I was dropping the ball up here.
Now you had, I think, some also inspirational people come work for you over the years, and I know, like, kind of when Cassidy came into your life, she was a hot young photographer coming up from Costa Rica with Tony Roberts. Mm-hmm. She seemed to really help you take your business to another level. Would you consider that accurate? I mean, you grinded at it for so long, and
without a doubt. Cassidy, I called it Hidden Bay Surf Tours, and I didn't want to tell anybody where it was. She called it Dale Dagger Surf Tours and made me a legend, which to this day, you can look at me. My face is red. I'm not a legend. Bob Marley's a legend. I've had a lot of help from a lot of people. And a guy named Tony Roberts has really, really moved things forward. Excellent photographer, a great friend, and excellent confidant. He taught me a lot of things. But I thought that I could keep Nicaragua secret, and it didn't work.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because that's a great story, because you were actually the contact for the Crossing, Quicksilver's boat that was going around the world searching for waves. And they contacted you because you had your connections, I'm assuming, to the surf industry when you worked for Neil, to help them show them the spots. Is that correct?
Actually not.
Okay, please.
It was a tip of the hat to me.
Okay.
The local kids in San Juan del Sur were just dying to show them all the spots. And the way you found the spots was you followed the Masaita. That was the name of my first boat, and that's how everybody found the places. They just would follow my boat, and that's how they found the spots. And so the local kids knew what was going on. And Martin Daly and Mark Coleman didn't need Dale Dagger to show them where surf spots are. These guys are really, really good. They didn't need me. As a tip of the hat and as a courtesy, they invited. But they didn't need me. Really good people. And through them, I met Tony Roberts.
And Tony always tells a story, though, that there's a few spots that you really want to keep to yourself. And as you ventured up the coast in the boat, they would ask about, what is that coast like over there? And you said, that's nothing. I've been there a million times. It doesn't have any sort of waves. When in actuality, I think it was, Colorado, which is one of the best beach breaks here in Nicaragua. Yeah, is that correct?
I tried really hard. Like I say, these guys are really good. They didn't need me. But as a sailor, Mark Coleman was looking for a place to anchor. So I told him to anchor in Gigante. Well, fuck you, anchor in Gigante. If you can't find the beach break from Gigante, you're a moron. And Mark Coleman's not a moron. They knew it right away. The first time they took me over there. And Tony, they backed the tin, they call it the tin boat, little aluminum boat. They backed the tin boat so close to the break that someone just jumped off the back of it into a set wave. I mean, I was so close to fucking poverty, I could never take a chance like that with a boat that I owned. And these guys they were so good. They were at the top of their game. once they got here, it was over. Game over. That's when it ended.
But you had been here enough and established yourself that you actually probably got to capitalize on the exposure from the surf magazines that came out after that trip. And do you think that helped your business at all, or were you already doing okay without that sort of exposure?
Oh, no. It definitely didn't hurt me. And I'm the guy that taught Tony Roberts. Tony, I'm sorry for saying this, but Tony shot covers. He shot pros. That's what Tony did. And I taught Tony, look, man, shoot kooks. You're so good. You can take my clients, you can make them look good. And so I would take him, and he'd take my clients who were less than average surfers and shoot pictures of them, make them look good. And now there's more money in that than there ever was in shooting covers.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, Tony's a wizard, and he makes everybody look amazing when he shoots you.
I've got a couple of photos that make me look pretty good.
Absolutely. So you have been here a long time. You continue to reside here. You mentioned you have now a catamaran in Mexico that you might like to bring down here. And
Trimaran.
I apologize.
No, okay. It's like, it's because I'm a sailor. I want you to get it right.
Yeah.
Catamarans now have freezers in them, and and double beds, and they can hardly sail out of their own way. Trimarans are the ones that guys do 900 miles a day in. There's a guy did 600 miles a day by himself. Trimarans are a lot higher performance. The boat I have now, you shit in a bucket, throw it over the rail. You weigh everything. It's a sailboat. It sails, and it's not about comfort. It's about sailing.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like this whole story is really about you maintaining the life that keeps you surfing and keeps you sailing, because that is what is in your veins. The fact that you have an environment that allows you to just do the things that you love. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that about right?
You're missing one little thing, and it's something new that I've come up with. It's Cassie called it dream walking. What I do is I put a pair of fins on, and I like vertically dog paddle, and I breathe, and you're aware of your breath, you're moving through the ocean, and I close my eyes, but I open them occasionally to make sure I'm going in the right way, and it's like walking, but you're not walking, you're in the ocean.
Mm.
And then when I come into the beach, I let the waves kind of shove me in what I would call yoga asanas, but I don't know enough about yoga to really tell you that that's how it is. But I do this yoga thing that's all about the water, the ocean. So no, my life is surfing, sailing, this swimming thing I do, and now I do these stretches in the water. My life is ocean-centric. It's not about just one thing. As I've grown older, I've learned to do new stuff. And the new stuff is pretty cool.
Now, over the years, looking back, do you feel like any sacrifices you had to make that were hard for you? Or was it all very just natural? And I know life here isn't easy, but is there anything that stands out as being like, man, I had this crossroad come in front of me where I could have done this or that, and I chose this? Anything that stands out as being one of those moments where you really didn't know what the decision was, but you took one path and it worked out for you?
That's a pretty tough question, and it's really hard just to answer like right off the top of your head.
Well, that's fine. We don't have to go into it.
But I'm not really sorry for any decisions that I've made, and I'm not really sorry for where my life is. Where my boat is now, the guru, his name is Denny Grover. We call him Denny Groover. And he worked 45 years. He created a ski resort. He did so much more than what I've done. And he's got Social Security and veterans benefits, and he did the whole American dream, picket fence, grandchildren, the whole that. and he's just such a cool guy. But he made it work for him. But it didn't work for me. The American dream wasn't going to work for me because I didn't fit the American dream. I smoked pot. I could turn a failure to appear into being handcuffed, on the bow of a Coast Guard cutter and drug off to jail. I didn't fit in America. There are some people that are really good at it, and God, stay there if you're good at it. But if they're fucking with you, get out of there. I mean, that's my advice. If it doesn't work for you, leave, because it's not going to get any better. It's only gotten worse from what I hear. I don't even listen to the news anymore. It's just you don't even know who to believe. But I go swimming every day. And yeah, I surf, but I surf a different way than people surf, but I'm 65 years old. When I was in my 40s, 13 Brazilians would paddle out and I'd get set waves. I had respect when I was a young, strong man. Now I'm an old guy and I respect myself. I think that's the most important thing, is self-respect.
That's
and
great.
You do that by doing, I don't know, how do you get self-respect? I guess you just live your life, and God, if it turns out right, you respect yourself for it. Yeah. I don't have any answers for anybody.
No, you nailed it. You just went straight through my last few questions in a very poetic, eloquent way. I thank you for that. What's next? And is it just continuing the lifestyle? I mean, you've touched upon.
My plans are, I'm going to sail again. Mm-hmm. I got one more sail in me. I'm going to build boats here, and I got a nice shop, where I live. Mm-hmm. I've got my lifestyle set up. I've got a woman who, she's not my woman in a sexual sense. She's my administrator. And I've got to set up that, when my life ends, she gets everything. And it'll just continue on. And she's even better at it than I am.
That's great. Why don't we tell the folks where people can find you if they ever want to come down and stay in one of your accommodations or buy property from you? Is there an easy place? I'll put it in my show notes also, but you want to just say that out loud?
You know what, Chapin? I'm a secret brand.
Okay.
And I prefer to just be secret. And if you can figure out who Dale Dagger is, then figure it out. And if you can't, then don't.
Perfect. I love it, Dale. Thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I think a lot of people out there are going to benefit from this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and we haven't been able to sit down and talk like this.
I agree. It's been a special day, Dale. Thanks again.
Thank you for listening to Misfits and Rejects. I hope this inspired you to think about your life situation, where you're at, and possibly make a big decision to choose something different for yourself if you're unhappy with where you're at in life. I hope these people that I interview inspire you to go out, spread your wings, and try something new. To live a different lifestyle that maybe your whole life people were telling you was the wrong one, but when in fact it's the perfect one for you. And I'll see you next time.